Hey there, fellow zombie enthusiasts. Welcome to the Drunken Zombies Podcast, your daily dose of the undead and all their terrifying glory. I'm Adrian, your guide through tonight's story.
And I'm Julia, and boy, do we have a twisted tale for you tonight. We're stepping into a world where the zombie apocalypse isn't caused by some virus or lab experiment, but by a biblical resurrection gone wrong.
That's right, we're taking the familiar story of Lazarus and turning it on its head. Get ready for epic battles, desperate survivors, and a shepherd who finds himself caught in a prophecy that could either save humanity or seal its doom. So, Julia, our story centers around Eli, this shepherd living a simple life far from the hustle and bustle of Jerusalem. Paint a picture of his world before the chaos begins.
Imagine a quiet life, tending flocks under a vast sky. Eli's a man of faith, finding peace and solitude, living in a world where miracles aren't unheard of. But as the source material hints, even in a world accustomed to the extraordinary, the resurrection of Lazarus changes everything.
Yeah, sometimes you get more than you bargained for with miracles, right? Speaking of which, how does Eli first catch wind of this whole zombie apocalypse situation? I'm guessing he doesn't have a smartphone with breaking news alerts.
Enter Miriam, a mysterious stranger who arrives at Eli's village with unsettling news. She speaks of Lazarus's resurrection and the rising dead. Initially, Eli brushes it off as wild tales until the unthinkable happens.
Here's where things take a dark turn. The dead rise and attack Eli's village. And we're not talking about some random shambling horde. It's his friends, his neighbors, people he knew, transformed into horrifying creatures. That adds a whole new layer of terror to the classic zombie attack, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The source material really drives home the emotional devastation of seeing loved ones twisted into these monstrous forms. Eli fights back, desperate to protect his home, but it's a losing battle. He ends up hiding under the corpses of his neighbors until daybreak. It's a truly harrowing experience.
That's more than heavy stuff. That's a gut punch. So after his world literally crumbles around him, what happens to Eli? Where does he go from there?
He's found by Miriam, proving her warnings were anything but crazy ramblings. She becomes his guide through this ravaged landscape, leading him on a journey of survival, both physical and spiritual. They traverse a world that's become unfamiliar and treacherous.
And Miriam is more than just a helpful survivor, isn't she? She introduces the idea of a prophecy, a light in the darkness destined to end this plague. How does Eli react to this? Is he instantly convinced he's the chosen one?
He's skeptical. And rightfully so. He's been thrust from a simple life into a fight for survival. The idea of being a savior seems a bit far-fetched. But as they journey together, battling the undead and facing constant danger, his perspective begins to shift.
They're thrown together into this fight for survival, each bringing something to the table. Miriam with her knowledge of the prophecy and Eli with his newfound grit. Do they become some kind of zombie-slaying power couple?
It's more a bond of necessity and shared experience. Miriam teaches Eli how to survive, how to fight, while Eli's growing courage becomes evident. Along the way, they share deep conversations about faith, destiny, and the collapse of their world. Witnessing the horrors firsthand chips away at Eli's skepticism.
They balance each other, finding strength in their differences. But they're not alone in this fight, right? Tell me about the other survivors they meet along the way.
They do encounter other survivors, forming a makeshift family united against the undead threat. There's Jonah, a strong blacksmith who brings raw power to the group. Then there's Leah, a skilled healer who offers compassion and care in this bleak world. And finally, there's Samuel, a resilient young boy who represents a glimmer of hope for the future.
It's a classic ragtag group of apocalypse survivors, each with their own skills and strengths. But you mentioned something about a betrayal. That seems like a cruel twist of the knife when they're already facing the end of the world. Who betrays them and what happens?
The details are shrouded in mystery, but during an ambush by bandits, Miriam is captured. This leaves Eli reeling, grappling with loss and a sense of betrayal that shakes him to his core.
Eli goes from peaceful shepherd to reluctant warrior, discovering a purpose only to be hit with this devastating blow. It's a roller coaster of emotions, for sure. So after facing betrayal and loss, where does Eli find himself? What's his next move?
He descends into despair, both physically and emotionally. The path leads him to the catacombs beneath Jerusalem, a dark and mysterious place full of secrets. This marks a pivotal moment in his journey, a descent not just into the depths of the earth, but also into the depths of his own soul.
Catacombs always have an air of mystery and danger. A perfect setting for self-discovery in a zombie apocalypse, wouldn't you say? What awaits Eli in this subterranean labyrinth? What does he find down there in the darkness?
In the catacombs, he uncovers truths about himself, about the prophecy, and about his connection to the plague. It's a process of revelation, forcing him to confront not just the horrors around him, but also the potential within himself.
So it's not just about fighting off flesh-eating monsters anymore. It's about wrestling with destiny and facing a prophecy head-on. It sounds like things are about to get really interesting.
Welcome back, zombie enthusiasts, to the Drunken Zombies Podcast. When we left off, Eli was preparing to confront Lazarus, the source of this terrifying plague.
Yeah, after everything he's been through, the loss, the betrayal, the descent into those eerie catacombs, this confrontation feels like the ultimate test. It's not just about survival anymore, is it?
Not at all. He's carrying the weight of the prophecy, the hope of humanity on his shoulders. He's facing the embodiment of death itself.
No pressure there. So Eli emerges from the catacombs, ready to face Lazarus. How does one even prepare to fight the source of a zombie plague? Did he find some ancient zombie-slaying sword down there or something?
The source material hints at ancient rituals and forbidden knowledge that Eli uncovers in the catacombs. It suggests that this battle will be won not through brute force, but through something more mystical, a power capable of turning the tide against the undead.
That's what I find so compelling about this story. It goes beyond the typical zombie apocalypse, adding a layer of biblical myth and ancient power. So what happens when Eli finally confronts Lazarus? Is it a massive zombie battle royal in the streets of Jerusalem?
It's actually much more intimate than you might expect. The source material describes an eerie calm settling over the city as Eli and his allies approach Lazarus. It's as if even the undead are holding their breath, anticipating the outcome of this confrontation.
That's a chilling image, the city holding its breath. What's the confrontation like? Is it a dialogue-heavy showdown where Eli tries to reason with Lazarus, or is it a straight-up brawl?
It's depicted as a clash of wills, a battle between light and darkness, life and death. Eli draws upon the power of the prophecy, the hope of the survivors, to combat Lazarus' influence. It's a struggle for the very soul of Jerusalem.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Who wins this epic showdown of good versus evil?
As dawn breaks, light pierces the darkness, and Lazarus, overwhelmed by the force Eli wields, is finally vanquished. His reign of terror ends not with a scream, but a sigh of relief, as if even he was burdened by the darkness he carried.
That's some poetic justice. But it can't be that easy, right? Is there a catch to this victory?
There's a heavy price to pay. Performing the ritual that banishes Lazarus and releases the undead from their torment takes a terrible toll on Eli.
Oh no, don't tell me. He makes the ultimate sacrifice, doesn't he?
He does. Eli collapses as the ritual is completed, his life force drained. With his last breaths, he passes the torch to Samuel, urging him to lead the survivors and rebuild a world where darkness is merely a shadow cast by the light. And with his mission fulfilled, Eli's light fades and he dies.
Man, that's bittersweet. He saves humanity, but doesn't get to see the new world he helped create. A true hero sacrifice, laying down his life for the greater good. But what happens next? We'll have to find out in part 3 when we return to the Drunken Zombies Podcast. Welcome back, zombie enthusiasts, to the Drunken Zombies Podcast.
We're wrapping up our exploration of this unique zombie apocalypse where faith and the undead collide.
We've witnessed Eli's incredible journey, from humble shepherd to reluctant hero, culminating in a sacrifice that saved humanity from a biblical plague. But his death isn't the end of the story, is it? What becomes of the world and the survivors after the zombie threat is finally extinguished.
That's right. The source material emphasizes that Eli's death is not a period, but a comma. It signifies not an ending, but the beginning of a new chapter.
So it's not just about surviving the apocalypse, but about what comes after, rebuilding and creating a new world from the ashes of the old. I imagine that's a daunting task.
Indeed. The task falls to those who endured, those who fought alongside Eli and carry his legacy forward. They must navigate a world forever changed by the events they've witnessed.
Tell me more about this rebuilding process. What happens to Jerusalem and the people who are left behind? Is there a sense of hope after such widespread devastation?
The source material paints a picture of resilience and cautious optimism. Jerusalem, once overrun by the undead, slowly begins to heal. Survivors emerge from hiding, and the arduous task of rebuilding commences. There's a quiet determination, a refusal to let the darkness win.
It's inspiring how even in a world ravaged by a zombie apocalypse, the human spirit finds a way to persevere and rebuild. What roles do the other survivors, Jonah, Leah, Samuel, and Miriam, play in this new world?
They each bring their unique strengths and experiences to the rebuilding effort. Jonah, the blacksmith, uses his strength and skills to fortify the city, making it a haven against future threats. Leah, the healer, tends to the sick and wounded, offering comfort and mending both physical and emotional scars.
It makes sense that they would utilize their skills to contribute to the rebuilding effort. But what about Samuel? Eli passed the torch to him right before he died. Does he step up and embrace a leadership role?
He does, though burdened by the immense responsibility. He's young, but the apocalypse has forced him to mature quickly. He takes Eli's words to heart, striving to create a world where dawn breaks every day and darkness remains a mere shadow. It's a weighty task for one so young, but he's not alone.
That's a lot to carry for someone who's just a boy.
Speaking of carrying burdens, what about Miriam? She was captured and then freed, right? What becomes of her in this new world? Does she find peace after the trauma she experienced?
Miriam's knowledge of the prophecy and her resilience make her a crucial figure in this new world. She becomes a guide and mentor to Samuel, supporting him as he navigates the challenges of leadership. Together, they work to ensure that Eli's sacrifice was not in vain and that his message of hope continues to inspire.
So it's not just about rebuilding physical structures, but about rebuilding a society, a belief system, a sense of hope for the future. They're carrying the torch, both literally and figuratively. Precisely. And they're doing it by honoring Eli's memory and carrying his message of hope and resilience into the future. They're proving that even in a world forever marked by the apocalypse, light can still find a way to shine.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, we have the strength to overcome adversity and build a brighter future. This story has taken us on a roller coaster of emotions, from the initial shock of the zombie apocalypse to the epic showdown with Lazarus and the bittersweet victory that came at such a great cost.
It's a tale that explores not just the horrors of the undead, but the enduring strength of the human spirit, the power of faith, and the importance of hope even in the face of unimaginable darkness.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of our exploration of this chilling yet ultimately hopeful zombie apocalypse. We hope you enjoy this twisted take on a familiar tale to zombie fans. Now, before we sign off, we want to hear from you.
What did you think of Eli's journey? What resonated with you the most? Could you handle the pressure of being the light in the darkness in a zombie apocalypse? Head over to our social media and let us know.
And don't forget to rate and follow the Drunken Zombies Podcast for more spine-chilling tales from the world of the undead. Until next time, stay safe out there and keep those brains sharp.
Remember, even in a zombie apocalypse, there's always a reason to raise a glass. Cheers!